Hey everyone, welcome to today's WTS workshop. We are going to give it a few minutes while everyone starts to join us. If you can use the chat and make sure you switch it to panelists and attendees so that we can all hear each other, and just let us know where you're dialing in from. Hey Lauren, hey Bryony. Hey Joe.
Joe!
Yeah. Coral, Samphire, Erin, yeah. Hey everyone, me and Barb were just talking about how warm it is where we are. So how warm is it over there as well?
So I know in Minneapolis, it's like 99 degrees Fahrenheit because my dad said he cannot, so I saw somebody who was from Minneapolis, that he can't golf today. It's too hot for him.
Yeah. Ooh, 17 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that's quite cold.
Oh yeah, it's always ice cream weather, no matter where you are.
Yep. Awesome. It's great to have so many people joining us live. And as always, we will be recording this session and we will share recording and slides afterwards, both on Facebook and on Slack. I want to say a really, really big thank you to Traffic Think Tank. This is the second WTS workshop that they sponsor, which is awesome. They're a great SEO community, and it's just great to have like different communities supporting one another. And of course, a huge thank you to Barb. I am so excited about this talk because I myself don't know much about Tag Manager. And Barb, just a really big thank you to you. You're always very active on our groups and you're always answering tons of questions. So thanks so much for pitching to do this talk with us in WTS Workshop.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help out. And I get so much back from the group myself. Like I always have questions. And so I was trying to get in there as much as I can just to answer. And yeah, there's a lot of learning in there.
Yep. Gotta love it. Yep. Awesome. So we're gonna kick things off. We have the Q&A tab down there. So feel free to ask questions as we go. I'll collate them and we have enough time at the end to kind of go through stuff together. So ask away. And yeah, I'll just hand things over to Barb.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you get a lot out of this course. We're going to talk about Google Tag Manager. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Google, the UTM tracking codes. I know Claire Carlisle put out a really wonderful post on that. So we're going to touch a little bit on what she talks about with tracking that way as well. So to give you a little bit of background about me, I started my business in full-time in 2019, Compass Digital Strategies. And the idea was to give people direction, hence the compass. So my market is basically helping single owner service-based businesses get more organic traffic, but also get more leads. So it doesn't just end at SEO, it ends at like conversion rate optimization. Because I'm going to feel bad if I get them a whole bunch of leads, but they don't do anything with it. I don't go into the business side of their things, but I do help them with anything like the website side. I've been in the digital marketing field for a lot of years, mostly in the furniture e-commerce industry when I was working with corporate. And one day I just decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I wanted to work anytime, anywhere and help out some friends. I was working in photography at the time, doing that as a side business, and learned that there was a lot of people with just questions. They didn't know where to go, what to do next, or anything like that. So kind of snowballed, one thing led to another, and that's when the business started. I'm based in Las Vegas, and I moved from Minnesota in 2012 because finally I just got sick of the cold. It was just too cold, and I'm a runner and I can't run like all year long with Minnesota. So Vegas was a good spot. And I had a best friend here that I had been visiting for a ton of years. So I already had somebody here, which was kind of nice. I do like beer a lot, but I can't drink it anymore. It's just not settling well. I wonder if it's like maybe too much information, but like the premenopausal thing, like your body just can't take it. And it's really sad because I also have, if I can get it here, my favorite beer is Stone IPA, and I got their gargoyle tattooed on my arm. So I'd like to be able to do them well and start drinking that someday again. And then I am a marathon runner. I think doing the physical fitness and doing things of that nature are very helpful, especially when you're running your own business and just trying to keep yourself doing well. So my next race is in September, hoping I can do well. My goal is to finish alive, and that's it. So I'm active on most Instagram and LinkedIn, and then I'm also on Twitter. I use Twitter more for the industry type of stuff. So like with other people like you and other resources in terms of SEO. And then the Instagram and LinkedIn are where like my clients and my ideal audience are. So, all right. So the outcome, track all the data that you can. And we're going to go through tracking outbound link clicks from the website, tracking phone calls on the website, PDF downloads, form submissions, how far people are scrolling on a page. And then we're also going to look at a couple different ways to look at local search traffic, how to track that, and then setting up and tracking those goals in Google Analytics. So first, the Google Tag Manager. It is a free tool from Google, and it sends data that you put inside of there over to Google Analytics in the form of, like, most common, like events or goals or page views, that kind of thing. It's not retroactive. So anything that you put onto Google Tag Manager, it can't go in the past and track those things. So keep that in mind. Some of the terms that you're going to hear are container, and the container is the holding area for the tags that we put in place. In most cases, you're just going to have one per website. The tags are the tracking code that is placed inside of Google Tag Manager. And then triggers. So what are the conditions when that tag will fire off? It could be all pages. It might be just some clicks on a page or a certain page, that kind of thing. And then variables. So these are named placeholders for a value. So for example, your Google ID, it needs to know where to send this information. So we'll set up a variable in order to tell it where to go. And then that way you don't have to do it every single time. It's just always in there. Let's see, installing the Google Tag Manager. So what we're going to do, let me back into this little piece right here. So another terminology is recipes. They're kind of like templates, and that's what we're going to use a lot of. So we're not going to recreate the wheel and how things are done. There's a lot of download recipes that you can import to your Google Tag Manager to make it super, super simple. And another word is non-interaction hit. So when you're setting up tags, when you see that, you do want to set that to true if you don't want that to count towards your bounce rate. So most of the times I think it defaults to false. So you want to make sure to set that to true, because most of the tags that you work with, it's not going to be, you don't want it to go towards the bounce rate. Yeah, so that's it. So we're going to create an account. So now I'm going to get out of this somehow. Hang on one second. There we go. And okay. I have a website that is, it's called lastcallrunners.com. So it's my like little pet place, I guess. And it's so brand new that it's kind of like my guinea pig for all things. So that's the website that we're going to use today. So when you go into Google Tag Manager, I think there should be a different screen that you'll see actually. It might come up. Okay. Well, it'll have a different screen because I've been in here already, and you can just create an account. So we're going to go through and create an account, and my company name is Last Call Runners. And then the container name typically is just your website name again, or your website URL. And then I'm going to target the web platform. So you can also do this for all other different things. And I'm going to click create. Accept all the data, all the stuff. And now we have to install the Google Tag Manager code. It's kind of like Google Analytics. So we're going to copy this code and put it in the head of our website, and this code and put it in the body of our website. So the easiest way, if you don't have a developer, the easiest way, like with WordPress, is to get a plugin that's called Insert Headers and Footers. And it goes in your settings area, and you can just paste it right in there. And then I'm going to click Save. Go back to Google Tag Manager and say, okay. And now I have my Google Tag Manager set up. However, it's not actually published. And this is where this can come in handy. So there is a Chrome extension. Oh, by the way, all the links that we talk about and all the things that are resources like the recipes, those kinds of things, those will be included in the last slide that you guys can download, and all the links are there and available. So there is a Tag Assistant Chrome extension. When you install this, you click Enable, and then refresh the window. And then you'll see here that it was added to the website, but it has like a little frowny face, and because it looks like there's no code. So what happens is you actually have to publish the container blank without any tags inside of it. So I'm just going to click submit, publish initial, and then publish it. And now it's been published. And if I come back here and refresh and check the tag assistant, we can see that, well, it should be on there. Maybe because there's no code inside of it. All right, so I don't know about this, but I know it won't work unless you publish it. So we'll just keep moving on. All right. So now let me get my notes here. We are going to put that in there. The other thing you want to do is set up your GA ID. So we're going to go into variables, the next thing, and you're going to click user defined variables and say new and call it GA ID. And the variable configuration there's a whole list of them here. You're going to choose Google Analytics settings, and you're going to put your tracking ID right here. So if I go into my analytics, and if I go into the property that is the UA, which is the normal Google Analytics, I can go into tracking info, tracking code, and get that tracking code right here. And then I click save. And now I have my GA ID in here for when I do my tags. The other thing that you might want to do, depending on how much you do testing with the tags and how much testing you do, is to add tagassistant.google.com to your referral exclusion list. So if you go into analytics and you go into the admin area, under the property area, there's a referral exclusion list here. And you can add this so that way Google Analytics doesn't pick up that traffic. All right, our very first one is going to be outbound link clicks. So to do this, let's see, let me come back here, outbound link clicks. This is our overview of what we're going to do. So we're going to import the recipe, and then we are going to go through that whole thing. This gives you every single step. So every screen that you go through, this is what that is. And then we're going to confirm it, and then we're going to do a test on the tag, and then we are going to publish it. All right. So I've already downloaded my recipes. So now we are going to go into the admin area and click import container. We're going to choose the container that we just set up, or excuse me, the downloaded file and desktop. And we're going to do the outbound clicks. Click open. We're going to choose it into an existing workspace. And then we're going to merge. If you choose overwrite, all of the tags that you did before are gone. So make sure that you do a merge. And then easily you can either choose to overwrite conflicting tags, which I can't imagine unless you're trying to fix something, maybe why, or rename the conflicting tags. And down here, it shows you exactly if there's any issues that you need to worry about. So I'm going to click confirm because everything looks good. And then I'm going to go into the tag itself, and we'll go through this a little bit. So there's the tag configuration. So this is what it's doing exactly. And then down at the bottom, it says where it's being triggered. So if we go through here and click it, it'll go into the edit mode. And the track type is an event. So it's going to send an event over to Google Analytics, and you give it your category, action, label, and value if you want. Most of the time I end up leaving them as the default, but sometimes I'll change those because it's also helpful to know too what you want to do in advance so that you can think about the strategy of how you're going to name things so that they come in the reports properly. So we have outbound link click. So for example, if you have link clicks that you want to track internally and externally, you might want to consider just doing link click and then including maybe outbound or inbound or internal on the action or something like that. And then the action is going to be the host name. So that's going to be, I believe, the domain piece of the URL. And then the label is a variable that is a click URL. So whatever that URL is will show up in the reports. And then we want to, this is good, it's false, non-interaction, excuse me, we want to send it to true. And then we're going to change our Google Analytics settings so that it knows to go to our Google Analytics. And we're going to choose the GA ID that we've done before, and then uncheck that box because you can't have both. It conflicts and then it doesn't work. And then down here, it says, okay, it's just going to click. It's only going to track on link clicks. So any page, but any click where it matches, see this. So the regex is any page URL. It is waiting to make sure that it tracks it. And then the outbound link click URL equals true. Frankly, I don't know what this means. So a lot of the times when I do these, I do get the recipes and I might not know every single piece, but that's where the testing comes into play. So now I'm going to click save. But it's going to do all clicks. And now we are going to test it. Let's make sure that's the next step. Okay, so we're not going to test every tag today. We're just going to test this first one because it's a big deal that you understand how it works. It got a little crazier, but I feel like it even though it's a little bit crazier since the last Google Tag Manager, I do like this one better. It's a little bit easier to read. So we're going to go into preview mode. And we're going to put the website here. And you can leave this here. Apparently it makes it work just a little bit better. So I always left this, and it adds like a parameter at the end of your URL. And then click connect. And it's going to connect, and you're going to see another tab open up automatically of the website. So it's in preview mode. And then this window stays up. I can click continue. And this is where all the information is happening. So the stream of things that happen when a web page loads happens all over here. So you can see it's done and ready and window loaded. And right away, we can see there's tags fired and tags not fired. And the tag that we just set up did not fire, which is good because we didn't click anything. So now I'm going to come over here to last call runners. And I have an outbound link available here. So a lot of the times I don't want the window to go away. I just want the thing to happen. So I'll usually open the outbound link or whatever I'm clicking on when I'm testing. I'm using command if it's a Mac. So it opens up into a new window, and I can keep this page here because it's just kind of I think just in my head, I like to have that. And then you'll see the next stream piece here, a link click happened. So if I click that, tags fired, the outbound link click did work. So that's good. Now, if I click it, you can see all the information that happens. In the upper right-hand corner here, you can display the variables as names themselves. What you see here, GAID, click hostname, click URL, or you can choose to have values. So you can see exactly what value is going to be placed there. So you can see if you like it or not. And since I'm good with that, I am going to now close. Oh, the icons change a little bit, which is also helpful. I'm going to disconnect because I don't need to be back in there, and close the window, and then come back to my tag assistant and choose the X and go back to tag manager. And now I can submit it. And publish. And now I have that tag being tracked. So if I go into Google Analytics, one way you can see it is in real time. And then there's an events. And go to events last 30 minutes. And you can see the outbound link click actually did work and get sent over to Google Analytics. And then I have an example report in a different window here. So when you go to Google Analytics and you go to behavior, events, and overview, you can see the list of events by category, by action, or by event label. And there's probably some other things you can do too. I didn't get into the in-depth of this, but you could do things with custom reports so that you could see maybe what pages these are coming from, or maybe that would be something to add in the tag. So you could put a variable that has action of the page that the outbound link is coming from, where they are at that moment. And then the label could be the actual outbound link click. So those are some things that you can do. I think this comes into handy when trying to figure out if people are actually clicking on the links, if they're using the information. I'm pretty sure affiliate type stuff, this would work really well for, to see if anybody's even, you know, interested in that product or that thing that you're putting as an affiliate. So we went through testing tags. I did put a thing in here too, if by chance you see this window, even after you've disconnected. I've never had a problem with it, but I have heard people, so I just put this in here. You can click the X in the upper right-hand corner and see if that does anything to get you out of there, or you can remove the URL from the testing website that you were on, or you can click on any internal link of the site because it changes the referrer. And lastly, you can try and delete the cookie that's associated with this. So in case that happens. All right, Arij, do we have any questions, or are we good so far?
I think we're good. We had one come through, but we can definitely go through it towards the end.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, now we're going to go on to phone calls, and we're going to track those. So now I'm going to, oops, wrong window. Okay. Track phone calls. So I'm going to go back to my workspace, and I'm going to go tag. And, oh, excuse me, I lied. I'm going to go to admin, import container. And then I'm going to choose my phone call container. That must be it. Contact, nope, file download, scroll tracking, contact. I think it was this one. Let's take a look and see. Choose it into existing, and then merge. So if you notice this, when I did an overwrite, you can see that one tag would be deleted, a trigger would be deleted, 8 variables deleted, all that kind of stuff. We don't want that to happen. So we want to click merge, and then everything looks good, and click confirm. And then I'm going to go into that tag and contact link clicks. So this could be more than just phone calls. It could be some other things too. We'll take a look and see. Oh, so it's tell or mail to. So that's what this particular recipe looks at. Because for forms themselves, I'm going to go into that later. There's a different way to do those to see and get it, like, not just that they clicked, but that it actually submitted and you got the other end. So if I go into this tag, contact link click, it's going to send an event, and it's going to do a lookup link type, which is something that is a variable inside of this tag specifically that they set up. So they added the variable, because I know that this is not one that is standard in the variables. And then the click URL. And then we are going to change this to true, change our GAID, uncheck, and then look at what it's triggering on. So anytime somebody, any page, if it matches mail to or tell, the click piece, the href, then it will fire that event into Google Analytics. So I'm going to close this and click save. And when I preview it, what will happen is, actually, what happens is, like, this phone number, that's what will end up going into Google, the Google events. I won't go through the testing every time. But one of the kickers to this is obviously we're not going to be able to, I don't think it does it on mobile, because people just kind of click that way. I don't think it tracks it. But also this isn't really helpful for, maybe it tracks mobile. It doesn't really track for desktop because nobody really calls from desktop. So it's kind of goofy looking at it this way, but very helpful to see who's calling in. All right.
Barb, a few questions come through, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one on, are you able to explain what variables are again? I may have missed it.
Yep. Perfect. Let me do that, because actually by default, not all variables are available. So variables are like holding areas for different pieces of data. So for example, there are the system ones, the built-in ones, and it usually just comes with a few, but then there's also the user-defined variables. So for example, the GAID that we set up, the reason we did that was so that we didn't have to remember this code every single time to tell the tags to go to Google Analytics. So we set it up in this like holding area GAID as the variable. And then there's other ones too that people will put into their recipes, the tags that we import. So like this lookup link type, it is a click protocol lookup table. Okay, so they're using it to say, okay, when somebody clicks, is it a mail to or is it a tell? And so they put their own variable in here so that it'd be easier to pass that through and you don't have to do it every time.
Yeah, and someone is asking, where are you getting these recipes from? Apologies if I missed it.
No, all good. So you can usually search Google Tag Manager, but just so you know, I did put these specific recipes inside of the resources area for the slides so that you have them. And then also Analytics Mania and lovesdata.com. Those two websites are phenomenal resources for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. And we can, yeah, we've got those shared. And just another quick one before you can carry on. So I've used GTM before, but I've never imported anything. Is it okay if you please explain that bit again?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so if I go into Google Tag Manager and I go to the admin area. So what happens is you download a page. Actually, let me just go quick do that real quick. So this recipe, let's go to the next one, the PDF downloads. So if I go to this page, they have the download container file. So I actually just right mouse click and then save link as, and that's the file. So when I come into here, I go to import container and then choose that container file. And that is the file download JSON. Click open. And then you want to do it to the existing workspace that you're working on. And then this is the part where you want to remember to always choose merge, because again, if you do overwrite, you're going to lose any of the previous work that you did. And then make sure there's no issues here, that everything says new. And then click confirm. And then if we go into the tag, we see file download. And if I click it, it goes into the edit mode and there's an event type track and then the category. So it's been assigned file downloads, which I'm fine with. The action is going to populate with the extension of the file. And then the label is the file name. So I'll quick test this one just so you can see it, because I think file downloads are a really big one that people want to track. And then I'll show you what these look like. And then if you click true, because we don't want it to count against the bounce rate. And then I'm going to set my GA ID so it knows which Google Analytics to send it to. And then uncheck this box. And it's only going to fire an event to Google Analytics when the file extension is one of these things, PDF, XLS, doc, or text. So you can go in and change that if you want. And then I'm going to click save and preview for the test. And it remembers where I was. So I'm going to just click connect. And it pops up a new window. And here's my download right here. So I'm going to use my command click so it clicks into another window so I can keep it. And you'll see when the window loaded, the file event did not fire. But when I did the link click, the file download did fire. So I can see that, yep, it did file downloads, it did a PDF, and it did the name of the file so that I have that information. And then if I go over to, let me change my thing here, to analytics and go to real-time events, you can see file downloads did populate into Google Analytics. And since I'm good with that, now I can close the window and close this window. And then go back to Tag Manager and submit my changes. So I think we did click tracking plus, I'm terrible at this one, like the version names. I just don't usually come back to these or need to know. So, but it's good to know if you do start working with a ton of them, so that way you can either go back if you need to or that kind of thing. So now we've published the PDF downloads. Did that answer so far everybody's questions? We're good?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, super helpful. Thanks so much, Barb.
Yeah. Okay. And those again are all in the events area. So you can see them all in there. Now we're going to track page scrolling. This is really fun. So where this comes in handy is if you can track where people are scrolling on a page. Let's say people are not taking the action that you think that they would from the page, like they're not signing up for an event or they're not going to the next page that you think that they're going to, that they should go to. You can install this the scrolling recipe to your Google Tag Manager to understand, are they getting to that area? And if they're not getting to that area, then you need to move your call to action up or do something else at the top to make them come down to that area. So it's very, very, very helpful in terms of how people are interacting with your website. So we will go through and install that recipe. And the link is in the slide, so you can have it handy. Click merge and click confirm. And then tags. Then we have scrolling here. I've never changed these. They're fine for me. By default, it does 25, 50, 75, and 100%. And non-interaction hit. And I'm going to change this to my GA ID and click save. And I am going to preview this one because it's really funny. I have not figured out a way to be able to really know where 25, 50, 75, and 100 is. So by doing the testing, and especially if I'm doing this for a particular page, you can kind of get a sense of where that 25, 50, and 100 is. So I have my tag manager and all of the pages, all the pieces are loaded. And here we have event scrolling, which it did not fire. So when I go here, I'm going to scroll just a little bit. And then I'm going to check and see. Nope, nothing, because I'm looking for another event here. And then I'm going to scroll a little bit again. Oh, and now we have one. So this set the scrolling event off. And in Google Analytics, I'm going to be able to see for this page that someone scrolled only 25% on the page. And if I keep going, I think you can kind of tell like by the browser button here. And a little bit more. Oh, there we go. I got another one. So this one is 50%. So I know the person scrolled 50%. And I can scroll a little bit more. And there's my 75%. And then I'll scroll all the way to the bottom. And then I have 100%. Okay, so now if I go over to analytics, I can see all the scrolls that appeared. And I'm going to cancel out of everything. And then submit it. Publish. And then I have an example for reports for scrolling specifically. Here we go. Okay, so the first report is in, again, it's in events, but then you click pages, and then you can click on a specific page. And when you choose event action, you can see specifically, okay, this page, people scroll 25%, 50% of the time. There's probably only 2% that scrolled the entire time. So a lot of the people, like 80%, scroll at least halfway through the page. So this is a more interactive page. If you found this was flipped, that's when I would say, hey, I wonder if we need to move like the call to action up, or I need to maybe put a button up at the top that says go down to the bottom of the call to action, that kind of thing. Another report is when you go into the pages, again, in the events area, there's these different pieces or filters or things that you can do to get a different view. One of them is by using the report pivot table. So when you go into Google Analytics, there's this button here. If you click that, and then change the events filter and say include event actions containing %, and then pivot by event action and unique events, you can get a pivot table with your pages and then each scroll event. So you can get a bigger picture instead of having to go just into one page at a time. This one I got from 2 Octobers. They had a really great post on it. The link is right here. And then you could export this out into Google Sheets or an Excel file and change these and manipulate the numbers to be percentages so that you can see it that way instead of the hard numbers. Okay, so we're going to get started with setting goals and form submissions. Do we have any questions surrounding page scrolling or anything that came up again through Google Tag Manager?
Yeah, so we had a few questions come through. So one is, how can you implement scroll tracking on specific pages? For example, just on blog posts?
That would be, let's take a look. So when you go into the tag here, you can do it so that it's only firing on some pages. So if I click triggering, you can add a piece, and I don't have one in here, but basically you would create a new trigger and then it would say just blog posts, and then you're going to do page view, some page views, and then you can do it where page path equals or page path contains, or you can use regex, however you need to do that to be only certain page views.
Yep, awesome. And just one more, if that's okay?
Yeah.
So how do you determine between a non-interactive hit and an interactive hit when you select true or false?
So it's the bounce rate. So if you don't want to consider it a bounce rate, I'm not sure I'm going to have a good words for this, but like, you know, when they come to the page and then they bounce off right away, if you have a tag that says download the PDF and make that an interaction, if they download it and they clicked it, then it will go towards the bounce rate. So it could increase your bounce rate from that perspective. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I think we should be good to go for now. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, good questions. All right, setting goals. So there are goals that you can put into Google Analytics and they show up kind of like when you have e-commerce, it's like right away inside of, let's see, down here in conversions. Actually, let me go backwards. I'm going to do one of my favorite reports. So we go acquisition, all traffic, and then channels. I'm not going to have a lot of data for this one because of the website that it is, but you'll have all of your channels down here. So you'll have like local organic, direct, email, referrals, which is other websites, social websites, that kind of thing. And what happens is you have these goals over on the right-hand side. So like conversions. So this is not just for e-commerce. It can be anything like a newsletter sign up. It could be leads. So whenever somebody submits a form, which is really common, and you can have multiple goals in here. So it's easy to see like what channel is driving most of your conversions or what channel is driving most of your leads, that kind of thing. So we're going to set up goals, and there's different kinds. You don't want to just put like everything in a goal. You want to put your macro type things inside of a goal. So for example, making a purchase is one, which is by default when you enable e-commerce, it'll just come into there, or opening an account. So like if you have a certain page where they click or they visit, requesting a demo, so like a form submission type thing, or signing up for a newsletter like I have in mind. Those are sort of the macro goal because that one goes towards your main business objectives or your strategy or what your business goal is. The micro goal is secondary and it should support the macro goal. So for example, here, what I got from this page, which is really good. They did a really great job undertaking a product search. So if somebody does a search in a field to look for a product, that could be like a micro goal. And to set up micro goals, you would probably use like events. So micro goals don't go into the goals area of Google Analytics. If they watch a video, if they download a PDF, those kinds of things that you would want to track. So we're going to talk about the macro goal and the form submission, because that one's really, really common. And when you submit most of the time when you have a contact page, some systems will just reload the thank you page inside of that same page, which makes it really difficult to track. You can do it through Google Tag Manager, but a couple different reasons why I don't like that. One, it is a little bit more difficult. And then if you have a separate thank you page to redirect it to, not only is it easier to track in the goals area, but you also get to customize it and help that person go on to the next step. So for example, like when somebody signs up for my newsletter on my main website, I put a video on the thank you page saying, thank you for signing up. And so it kind of gives a little bit more personalization. And then also I have like clients who have different thank you pages based off of where they came from. So like if they sign up on a form from a page that they were referred to from a podcast, for example, they put that podcast name in the thank you page, like thank you for signing up podcast listener, that kind of thing. So we're going to end up doing, we don't need GTM for this. We're just going to create a thank you page, and then we're going to add it into Google Analytics. So I do have one on my website already. I just quick put one up. And this is the page. So it just says thank you. But if we go into Google Analytics, and goals are in admin, I'm going to move windows here, and then click goals. And then you have here newsletter sign up. When you click new goal, it will go through and you can name it. So I'm just going to put test for now. And then you're going to choose destination and then click continue. And then equals to, and then the actual page. And it helps you down here to know too, they want you just to put the page, not the entire domain. You can add a value to it if you want, or funnels. I haven't dived into this too much, so I just leave these by default and then click save. And then it will be in your goals area. So again, that was in this one in particular, and it was showing over here so we can see those. Here's an example that I could pull from a client, so I didn't have you know, like stuff on there, but this is my favorite report. So we can see exactly, this is the leads that she gets, and most of her leads come from referrals, or excuse me, the conversion rate are best by referrals. Social does really well, and then organic search does really well. And she gets most of her leads from organic search, so she knows where to spend more of her time, or maybe also just say, okay, well, we're not getting that much from social. Let's get more from social. So you can kind of define where you want to spend your marketing time and your money. Any questions on form submissions?
Nope, no specific ones so far on that.
Cool. Okay, now we're going to track local search traffic. So using UTM parameters, I think it stands for urchin something something. That's all I know. It looks like this. So you have a name or a variable, and then you have what that variable stands for. And Google allows you to identify a source, a medium, and a campaign for tracking where traffic comes from. Claire Carlisle put out a really good post, and I did put a link to hers in there that talks all about it to give you more information. So essentially what you want to do, like for example, in your Google My Business listing, is you'll put this particular URL inside of the, let me just go there real quick. All right, that's fun. So if I go into my Google My Business listing and go into info, I've set my URL here to be that URL with the UTM parameters at the end, so that when it comes into Google Analytics, I can see exactly where it's coming from, that it's coming from organic, the medium, and then it shows up inside of your traffic sources as organic traffic. If you don't do that, then you don't know that that traffic is coming from Google My Business. So it's really helpful to track that kind of thing. You can see, and then you can also, so you can also see it in Google Search Console. So for example, if you have those tracking parameters in there, even when you do the posts, put something in there too. You can do a search by page. And then I always have to remember what mine is. So it's like source equals GMB listing. So if I put URLs containing GMB listing, I can see all of the queries that are happening that are going to that particular page because I put that URL in there. And this isn't all encompassing. There are some like caveats to this. I think I did put them in here, or no, here's a link to some more general info, because it doesn't track, like, I think it depends on something with the maps. Now I'm trying to think of what it was. Some of them it doesn't do, but it's like a good general estimate to see how much traffic you're driving from, like, say, your Google My Business posts. While people don't click on the posts a lot, people click on the actual listing itself. You will see like an increase as you post more. So it's good to know where your traffic is coming from. And this is, I feel like, a little bit better than the insights. So Google My Business has an insights area. And it just is a little bit, I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit tougher to read with, I can't even find it now, the keywords. I feel like this one is easier for me to see what keywords are being found. And then it also will show you the clicks. Okay, and then I also have an ungated template for you. So if you click this link, I have a document that will help you create Google Analytics campaign parameters. So Google has one that has a generator. So you don't have to think about like what you're typing and making sure that it's all typed in there. You can just put your website URL, your source, your medium, your campaign name, and then these are optional, but it doesn't have a way for you to like save it basically. So I created a document that allows you to keep track of this. So you can always make sure to use the same one because it is very case sensitive. So if you have a capital E and a lowercase e, it's going to come in as two different mediums. And it's kind of easy. This will just auto populate this from these pieces. So you can just copy paste down. And these are the resources links. And that is my presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Barb. I think that was really helpful. And also it was really helpful for you to pause throughout and kind of answer some of the questions that were coming through. I know this is something that you wanted to do when we were chatting about putting this together. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of opportunity for tracking, and it's just, some people just don't realize it's out there because they're so busy with all the things. And it's just really good stuff. Like all the data, you just need all of it.
Yeah, yeah. We had one question come through towards the beginning, which is, can we add the same code across two separate CMSs for the same domain?
Can you expand on that?
Yeah,
like
so
different CMSs?
Yeah, so Pri, if you have a little bit more on your specific example or so forth, just feel free to like type it in the chat and we can kind of go through it. There was another question on, are all GTM recipes tracked in real-time events?
They should be if they're an event. Let's see here. So if we did real time. So it's whatever is available in this area. So you could see traffic sources, you could see content. Yeah, you could see events if it's actually working. So if your test doesn't work, it's not going to show up in here.
Yeah. And there's a really good question around, if your tag manager needs a complete overhaul, where would you suggest starting? So in this specific example, there are so many tags that were set up from years ago and may not even be used.
Okay, can you repeat that for me?
So if you land a tag manager account that needs a complete overhaul, where would you even suggest starting? So I think with this specific example, they now have access to a tag manager account where it's been set up years ago and there are tons of tags that just haven't been used. How do you go around like auditing and cleaning that up?
Oh, that's a good one. I would actually go through each one just to make sure, but if they feel comfortable that they're not being used or they just absolutely need a clean slate, I mean, I'm of the nature, just get rid of it then and just start fresh, just delete the container. There's when you go into settings and stuff, there's a way that you can delete the container so you have a brand new fresh one, and then just make sure to put the new code on.
Yeah, and Pri actually came back. So on the question about the same code across the two separate CMSs, so she says that her main website is hosted on Showit, and then her blog is also on the same domain, but that's hosted on WordPress. So she's had to add GA to both. So she assumes that this also applies to GTM?
Yeah, you should have the same. You could actually, I would try and test it out if you could use the same code so you don't have to set up two containers. Set up one container for, well, one container, no, it's per website. So I don't know if you can do that with subdomains. I've never tried that. So that would be something you could probably look at. Analytics Mania, they might have the answer for that one. And if you can't find it, let me know. I can totally figure it out for you. But I'm not sure with subdomains. That's a good question.
Yeah, in her example, it's the same website, no subdomains. So she'll check it out.
It should work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely do like the testing and things like that. I can't imagine why it wouldn't, because it's using the URL when you set up the container. So, and you're passing it to the same Google Analytics, or do the two have two different Google Analytics numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we can get a little, yeah, it's the same account across both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And there was one from Katie. So should button tracking always be added as a GA event in GTM?
I like it that way. I'm not even sure if there is another way. I like to see them separate. And you can do all of them at the same time, like do all of them and then have different actions and labels, or you can just do one. Like I just did one for a client yesterday where we just wanted to track the one button click. And then we just did it like on a particular page that included this URL and had a certain class. And that's where that Analytics Mania comes in. Like these were just base ones, but they have some more where you can get really in depth and you can say, I just want this one button on this one page tracked.
Yeah, and another section, her question was, is using class or ID as a trigger the best way to add it in?
If you're looking for just the one, yeah, I've had more luck with the class than I have the ID.
Yeah, I think this honestly has been really helpful. And I just, if it's okay, kind of dig a little bit into like, when did you start using GTM and like, what was your learning curve around it? Because we did get a lot of comments in the chat about how it's something that overwhelms them and they're still trying to kind of wrap their head around it. So if you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had to like sit down and just focus on it, because it is one of those things where you can't just do it like minute by minute. Like you can just go quick change a link or something like that. And it really started with doing some stuff for my clients that I just couldn't do in Google Analytics, that I wanted to know, like how many PDF downloads were they doing? Like I can't see if somebody is actually downloading the PDF. And I know we were talking earlier, I don't know if it was during the recording when people were on, but like GA4 has that capability now, but it's not ready. So you're still having to do stuff in the old Google Analytics, but so people have had to do that. And then basically just sitting down, and it was more use case scenario. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I need it for? And then I started using it. And just recently I started taking a class from that Analytics Mania, and it's like so helpful to just sit down like for an hour or two and then just like dive into it to really focus.
Yeah, and all the resources, including in your slides, will be really, really helpful to go through. So we will be sharing the slides across with the recording. So definitely check those out. And we had a question come through if people can reach out to you for more questions when they dig into stuff.
No, they can't. I'm kidding. Yes, of course they can. Yes, totally fine. So my email's on there, and then you can hit me up on any of the socials. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, that was one quick one actually that just came through from Brenda. So will you have to look at all of your GA goals and GTM tags once Google implements the no cookie tracking?
Yes, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm like, I don't even know. And that's one of those things where I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed by that one. I don't know what I'm going to do actually. So, yeah.
I think it's going to be quite scary for a lot of people for sure, but we'll figure it out together. So everyone, like, feel free to kind of share what you're going through and how you're digging through things, and we can kind of have a learning together on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Barb. This was great and tons of learning. And thanks so much for sharing all your knowledge with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for everything. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, awesome.
Appreciate
All right.
you all.
Well, have a great day,
Appreciate you all.
everyone. Yeah, yeah. And we'll be sharing around both the recording and the slides. Thanks, everyone.